Welcome to Hockey Takes, the podcast. That's right. That is Hockey Takes. That's at Hockey Takes on Twitter. That's Takes with a Z. Thank you very much. At ZachMT9. That's where you can find the podcast. iTunes, of course, that's the main spot. Podbean, YouTube, going there. 5 stars. Subscribe. So you never, ever miss an episode of Hockey Takes the podcast. We're just about a week through at this point in the NHL season. About every team has played about 4 games. I just wanted to go through and just kind of do some news and notes. News and notes on a couple teams. We're not going to hit every team, but I just wanted to go through a quick roundup because there have been stories that are worth mentioning, and we will touch on every division. We'll mention some teams, we'll mention some players, some people on the hot seat, maybe some little bit of rumors floating around already, some early trouble. That's what we're going to get with these 56 games. You know, it's a sprint to the end of the season. There's not like the October, November, the October and November that you can kind of figure out where your team is and then, you know, make a couple moves by, as they say, American Thanksgiving. Is when a lot of the NHL teams would look at their roster and say, kind of, what do we have? Are we in this? Are we in this race? Are we rebuilding? What are we doing for the rest of the year? And kind of make our plans that way. But this time you really have to decide very, very quickly. Because before you know it, by the end of this weekend, a lot of guys will be playing, or a lot of teams will be playing over 6 games. So I only have about 50 games left. It is an absolute sprint to the finish here. And remember, top 4 of each division make the playoffs. Pretty competitive, pretty up and down. There's a couple standouts that we're going to mention as we go through here. A couple teams that kind of are what we thought they were going to be, and a couple surprises along the way. But I wanted to start with 2 divisions we haven't really talked about too much, and that's the West and the East. And let's just start with the West. And the first team that I wanted to mention, the team that I had in second place in this division, but I do have them in my Stanley Cup final, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights. They are 4-0 so far, 8 points, 16 goals for, 7 against. This team, just about as good as we expected them to be. The Fleury Laner thing is going to be interesting, but the Vegas Golden Knights look really good. They are going to beat up. They're kind of going to beat up on the bottom 3 of this division, mainly the California teams, I think, but 3 teams that are kind of rebuilding, and then there's 3 at the top, I believe, and then it's kind of weird because there's in this division it's kind of broken up into segments. There's the 3 at the top. There's the Vegas, in my mind, Vegas, St. Louis, and Colorado are the 3 best. And then there's a weird mix of Minnesota, San Jose, and Arizona are kind of the next 3. And I think one of them will get that extra spot. And then there's Anaheim and LA at the bottom, which can be fun on the right night. I've seen a couple of their games, actually. They have some exciting players. Anaheim in particular is kind of fun. So I would suggest taking a look at an Anaheim game if you're up late at night on the East Coast, 10:30, check out Anaheim Ducks game. But Vegas Golden Knights look really good so far. Colorado, very, very impressive as well. Minnesota has been the absolute story of this division so far. Pro Kaprizov, oh my goodness, he is just an absolute joy to watch. And we got to see him in 3-on-3 overtime on night one. He scored the OT winner, a couple points. He looks like the absolute real deal. And just such a game changer for this team. He looks like he has just breathed new life into this team. Please watch the Minnesota Wild at least once and get a good look at Kaprizov on the right night for him, because he looks absolutely fantastic for Minnesota. Colorado, I mean, they look great. This team is just so much fun to watch. The goaltending is always going to be the question. That I'm pretty confident in saying we're going to do a kind of a jump to conclusions podcast coming up soon here, when we just kind of, I want to give everybody like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then we can kind of make some big proclamations on certain teams and divisions and predictions and whatnot. That are it's probably a little bit too early in the season to do. Colorado looks great. The goaltending is going to hold them back. The two that I really just don't know about, and one of them may end up slipping in. I don't think so. If you made me pick a 4 right now, which I did, I have Colorado, Vegas. I had Colorado, Vegas, St. Louis, Arizona, Minnesota, San Jose, Anaheim, LA. Those were my predictions in this division. I just don't really know what I'm getting from San Jose on a night-to-night basis. I mean, it's really going to come down to Carlson and Burns. They've been playing 30 minutes a game. They basically are on the ice at all times. Can they hold up through a whole season? Can that team stay healthy? Can Martin Jones bounce back? There's just so many question marks on that team. It wouldn't surprise if they snuck in, but there are a lot of question marks there. Arizona looks okay. Nothing too impressive so far. They're 1-2-1. Phil Kessel scoring a good amount of goals, so that's been nice to see. For anybody that knows me and my love for Phil Kessel. But we'll see what happens with Arizona as well. Let's go to the East Division. A couple things here. Philadelphia looks really good. The two teams that I would say right off the bat that are kind of the class of this division, I'd say, are the Flyers and the Islanders. The Flyers are just deep. Me being a Pittsburgh Penguins fans, we saw them the first 2 nights. That team is just deep. If they get goaltending from Carter Hart that I think they're going to get, I picked this team to finish. I picked this team to finish second in this division. I thought they were right up there. They look really, really good. Team that I picked to finish first, it was Boston. For context, I picked Boston, Philadelphia, Washington, Pittsburgh, Islanders, Buffalo, Rangers, Devils was my pick in the Eastern Conference. Something about the Devils that I always have to pick finish last because they just don't excite me at all. Flyers look really good so far. And the Islanders look really good as well. I mean, that team, God, they just shut people down. They are just playing the way they should be playing. You can kind of see it. It's on their goal differential: 9 goals for, 6 goals against. That pretty much tells you the story, and that's going to tell you the story the entire year. If they can keep that up through the whole year, I think it's going to be kind of tough for them playing against the same teams all the time. But That team is gonna be tough to play against. That's for sure. But I really do like the Flyers. That team is very deep. Washington, a little bit notes on them. 4 players. That's their Russian players, including Ovechkin and Orlov, and Samsonov as well. All going to have to go into the COVID protocol and miss the next 4 games. This just coming down from the league today. Broke COVID protocol. Don't have COVID, but broke the protocol. Coach Laviolette saying they would have to miss the next 4 games. This could have been in Pittsburgh, I believe, on their off night, or the night afterwards that they were hanging out at each other's hotel room. I think is how the story goes. More information is coming out on this, but they are going to have to miss the next couple games. Could be a big. I mean, these sort of losses in a very short season is going to be, if you go through two kind of bad stretches, 2 kind of bad series, and another thing that I did want to mention about this, I do love the series format that you always play a team, not back to back, but like you play. It's like, oh, I'm gonna watch this second half Kings Avs game. Like, the first game was interesting. It's like, let's see what the Kings can do on the second night. Like, can they do something better on the second night? Like, what are they going to show them this time? It just kind of creates like little baseball series between each team. Is kind of what it feels like. It has a very baseball vibe to it, which I think is kind of cool. Pittsburgh, they're gonna be interesting. Man, 14 goals for, 18 against. The goaltending and overall defense, their penalty kill has been shocking. But the amount of goals they're giving up can absolutely not be sustained. And they're going to have to find a solution at goalie. Tristan Jarry just did not look great. The first 2 games, those were against the Flyers, a very tough opponent on the road to start out the season. And Casey DeSmith came in for the Capitals, the 2 wins in overtime, but didn't really look that impressive either. Did let up a good amount of goals, but definitely going to be interesting to see what happens with this team. The Malkin line needs to get going. Malkin, Zucker, and Russ. That part is very clear. The defense is very much banged up at this point. Friday, Saturday is going to be very interesting. Pierre-Olivier Joseph looks like he's going to make his Penguins debut. Obviously acquired in the Phil Kessel trade. A lot of people are excited about that. I am as well. I'll be excited to watch him. But, Pedersen, Marcus Pedersen, Mike Matheson, and UC Ricola, all out for longer term at this point, which isn't looking good. I did like the change they made, bringing Ruedel and UC Ricola. I think Ruedel's actually had a really nice start to the year. I'm really excited. And he had kind of a good end of last year too. So it's kind of been nice to see him like kind of get some time on that third pairing and get some trust from the coach. I think Mike Sullivan really likes him, so it'll be good to see Chad Ruedel back in the lineup, maybe taking a bigger role. We'll see how that goes. But it's going to be a lot of Brian Dumoulin and Chris Letang here for the next couple games. You did just get done with the Flyers and Capitals, but you do have the Rangers coming up over the weekend here, so that's going to be interesting as well. Buffalo 1-3 so far. Nice to see Taylor Hall on that line. Good to see him doing well. Rangers were, a lot of people were really excited about this team. This team looks really young still. I think we kind of have to we have to temper our expectations on the New York Rangers. This team has changed a lot too. This is gonna, obviously this is a rebuild, and they're kind of on the upswing of that, just acquiring assets, and they're doing a really good job of it. and they're kind of getting those high-end assets that you need. But yeah, this Ranger team is going to be a little bit of it's a rebuild. It's a rebuild, and they're working towards it. Speed it up here for the next two. Central Division has been really interesting. The one that looks fantastic is the Tampa Bay Lightning. I mean, this team is going to be. I mean, they've missed Nikita Kucherov, but not by much. I mean, this team looks really, really good. I'd say probably the biggest story for this team, or for this division, is Dallas has not played a game yet still. They kind of had a massive COVID outbreak early on in the season, and they're going to really need to. I mean, the schedule is going to become very compacted for them. Whether that affects them, this may be a nice little start for them, just to get a little bit more time. They seem like a really banged up team coming after the finals. So it could benefit them in the long run, missing these couple games, but they are going to have to play a lot in a short amount of time. Another big story in this one is Columbus. That team kind of going back and forth here. A lot of expectations on them. The Pierre-Luc Dubois situation reads as follows. He's requested a trade. He is probably their youngest star, a guy they really cannot afford to lose. If I'm being honest here, they cannot really afford to lose him, but it seems that way, and he does want out. They've shopped him around, had some talks, nothing really clear so far for Pierre-Luc Dubois. He was benched tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Columbus Blue Jackets are playing 2 against them. This division is just going to be, for me, I have two. I have 2 at the top of this. And it's Tampa and Dallas are my 2 at the top, along with Carolina. I have those 3 kind of marked in pen, if I'm being honest with you. That 4th team, I have between Columbus. It's going to be between Columbus, Nashville, and Florida. Are going to be those other 3 teams. I did want to mention the Keith Yandle situation in Florida, which was kind of a fun story a couple days ago. Was Keith Yandle has an epic Ironman streak going, which means he has not missed an NHL game. I think it's way over 700 games at this point, in a row. Like, never missed a game, played every game for every season, for years at this point. Was going to be healthy scratched by Joel Quenneville. I believe it was Florida's very first game. He was going to be a healthy scratch. Something happened where I believe the players got involved, according to a couple sources and a couple reports out there, that a lot of the players got involved in stopping that scratching from happening. And of course, and Keith Yandle scores a goal that night, which was just so awesome to see. So hopefully he keeps kind of going there. That team is kind of going through a transition. That team really needs to make the playoffs and make some noise. Whether they can, I don't know. I think they're in the division that would suit them, rather than kind of where they were. You get a couple other teams out of there. And you just get some. I mean, there's a lot of teams that are kind of right where Florida's at, right? There's Nashville and there's Columbus. You know, I just feel like those three could not be more similar, and kind of just the upper middle of the pack where they are. And then you have Detroit and Chicago, which are at the bottom. Detroit's been a little fun. They've been frisky for some teams. Chicago, it looks rough. They did play Tampa twice, so they have not had a great start to the year. Also, Jonathan Taves out on some sort of medical leave, as we know it so far. So best wishes to him. Hopefully he gets back on the ice soon for the Chicago Blackhawks. But we'll see what happens in the Central Division. It definitely looks like Tampa's to lose at this point. Finally, fourth and final division, the Scotia North. I'm not calling it the Scotia North. They don't sponsor this podcast. They're the North. It's the North Division, the Canadian Division. Wow, this division has been super fun so far. I've been watching a lot of it. Number one team that's impressed me, and they're impressing me tonight as I'm watching Montreal and Vancouver. Montreal looks fantastic. They are fast. They roll four lines. The goaltending's playing really well. And this team just scores goals. 17 goals for, and that's not count. I don't think that's counting the 6 they've already put up on Vancouver tonight. Which I believe puts them, absolutely on top of the league after tonight's over, in goals for. This team rolls 4 lines. They look fantastic. Josh Anderson, as I predicted, was a massive bump for them. I did have the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs. Unfortunately, I also had Vancouver in the playoffs. They look like an utter disaster. My worst fear has been realized as they traded their starting goalie in the division, Jakob Markstrom, and he has just not looked good. He was so good last year, and now I'm kind of thinking to myself that I was stupid. It's like, why would you trade him? He was probably one of the best parts of your team, Jakob Markstrom, for Vancouver, and they went with this Braden Holtby, Thatcher Demko duo that has just not worked out so far, and they've been looking for a solution there. And goal, that team sits second to last with 21 goals against so far. That absolutely is on top of the league. Only the next closest one is Chicago with 20 currently. So Vancouver not looking like the team that I thought they were going to be. Are missing some key injuries. They really need JT Miller back in that lineup. That top 6 has to carry them. And this was the worry that it was going to be Elias Pettersson and Quinn Hughes, and they had to carry this team. And they had to perform like they did last year, and they're not performing right now. Elias Pettersson is not performing the way he was. That is a problem. Another team that has been disappointing so far has been the Edmonton Oilers. And I guess this is just kind of the story of the Edmonton Oilers. If they do not make the playoffs, it is not going to be good for them. This team absolutely has to be in the playoffs. This team has to finish in the top 4. I had them in the top 4 right now. My top 4 is kind of a little bit backwards. I had Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, Montreal was my 4th. And then I had Calgary. And then I had Winnipeg. And then I had Ottawa. Winnipeg looks fantastic. They look really good so far through their first 4 games. Patrick Laine is out there. He was out the other day. Don't really know what we're going to get from him. Is he going to be traded? Are they keeping him? It feels like he could be traded. Connor Hellebuyck looks really good as usual. He looks like he is going to be an absolute player in this division and cause some havoc. Toronto's up there as well. They played pretty well. They played a pretty fun game against, actually not a fun game to watch and not a fun game to bet on, that Toronto just lost to Edmonton the other day. A must-win for Edmonton. It feels like there's a lot of games so far, which I really enjoy, especially in this division. That it's like these teams it's like, oh my God, Toronto plays Edmonton tonight. Edmonton lost their first 2 games. They have to win tonight. They have to win tonight. Or the city's gonna burn or something. And they did come out and win that game, which was good for them. But yeah, this North Division is gonna be really fun. Ottawa, a lot of young guys on Ottawa, so that's kind of a fun team to watch. But definitely, if you get a chance to watch this division, I highly recommend it. because it is just drama filled and expectations are high for a lot of these teams. And it is not going to be good if you're one of those teams on the outside looking in. So that's this week's edition of Hockey Takes the Podcast. Just about 25 minutes, news and notes from around the league on each division. Keep an eye out. Jump to Conclusions podcast coming up soon. I don't know when. The schedule is crazy. But keep an eye out for that. Enjoy the hockey. These games have been super fun, super fast. I cannot wait till the Penguins play next. The Rangers are coming up for them. That's going to be a pretty fun 2-game series. I'm going to be really excited to watch Panarin and Lafreniere against the Penguins, who let up a lot of goals, but also have been scoring a lot of goals. So those two could be really fun games going on. But I've really enjoyed the season so far. I hope you have as well. Again, at Hockey Takes, at ZachMT9 on Twitter is where you can find the podcast. Apple Podcasts, YouTube as well. Check it out on the socials. You'll be able to find the podcast at any time. iTunes 5 stars. Please subscribe 5 stars. That's so important. Thank you for listening. And as we always say, enjoy the hockey. Enjoy all these games. There's games on every night. It's been absolutely fantastic so far.